Hey, hey, hey. Hey, divas. Please let me know if you can hear me. Let me try to get situated. Hey, hey, hey. Okay, I think I can hear myself. Teresa, can you please let me know if you can hear me, sis? Let me know if I need to adjust my mic in any kind of way. Happy Saturday. I have several devices going. Give me 1 second. Okay, Gia, you say you hear an echo. Teresa says she hear an echo. What about now? What about now? Now, do I sound good? Do I sound good? Maybe it's the way that I'm shifting. Let me know if you still hear an echo. Let me know. Let me know. Okay, Teresa says I sound good. Okay, Teresa say I sound good. Hey y'all, hey my book divas, welcome to the Pink Table Book Club, where sisterhood meets storytelling. I am your host and good sis Pink Diva. Thank you so much for joining me on this Saturday afternoon. I am so glad to have each and every one of you here as we gather for another meeting. At this table, we don't just read books, we explore the lessons, the emotions, and the truth that lives between the lines, y'all. This is our space to laugh, to reflect, and to grow through stories that challenge us, entertain us, and sometimes even convict us, right? Today, as we open the pages of our featured book, Mistress No More, I invite you to show up and make sure you drop down and engage in the discussion. Your thoughts, your insights, and your questions also help make the meeting all the more better. This is a no judgment zone. You know how we do over here. We listen and we do not judge. It's just sisterhood, storytelling, and shared perspectives. So settle in, y'all, and let's dive into today's juicy read. I have a couple of raffles that I'll be doing as well today. So just make sure that you were actually engaged with the book. So good luck to the lucky winners, right? Hey to everybody who I have here. My sissy Teresa is here. Thanks for being here and modding for me, sis. I appreciate you. Gia is in the house. Hey girl, she says she's driving, but she's ready. Be careful, be careful, be careful while you're driving. Hey Lisa, thank you for joining, sis. I appreciate you. Janice Marie is in the house. Hey sis. Thanks for being here. I appreciate y'all. How has your morning been thus far? Hey, Mama V. Hey, Rosemary. She says, hello, book club, cutie crew sisters. Hey, sis. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Did you all enjoy the book? Did y'all enjoy the book? Did everybody get a chance to finish the book? Did everybody finish the book? Let me see. Let me see. Let me get my questions up. Let's see. Get my questions up. Let me see what y'all are saying. Teresa say, "Woo, child." Janice Marie say, "OMG." Gia says, "Yes, thanks, sis Teresa. Mistress No More. This is book number 2." Gia says she's ready for the next one already. Girl, listen, it gets greater later. You hear me? It gets greater later. Oh my goodness, it gets greater later, and I am so ready. Janice says 75%. Girl, listen. It was a whole mess. It was a whole mess. A whole mess, but I am ready. As we all know, who is that? Hey, Reen, thanks for joining. Teresa says, this book consumes me. Teresa, isn't it a page turner, girl? It makes you want to just continue going from one to the next. And if you are a fast reader, and if you want to continue going from one to the next, you can actually do so. For me, I just finished the book last night. I like it to kind of be fresh. I'm a fast reader, so I just actually started really, really good this week. But if you are a fast reader and you like to move to the next one, you can absolutely do so. But the only thing that you have to worry about is that it's going to be easy for you to get the books confused when you start discussing the book. You'll start remembering things from future books that we haven't actually read yet. So that's the only thing. It'll kind of confuse you a little bit. Lisa says, I didn't because I didn't know about the book club, but I'll be ready for the next one. Oh, sis. Well, listen, you'll be ready, and you got time because the next one is not until the third Saturday in December. So you have time to actually get caught up with all three books by that date. You'll have time to get caught up. Gia says, I can't tell you the number of times I get, girl, did you not clutch your pearls? Girl, I was clutching my pearls too. Because as we all know, in book one, the ladies, that's where the ladies dealt with the infamous message from the mistress, right? Who ended up being that darn Jezebel. And she's a whole case in herself. All of the friends went through their emotions of trying to figure out which one of their husbands were the actual culprit. Not only were they dealing with that, but it also highlighted some unresolved issues they all had in their marriages. And Jessa just effed around and found out that she should have kept her legs closed to married men, right? Because Eric didn't follow through with his little plan, or their plan, to say the least. He never showed up to the house once he found out about the text messages that Jessa sent. So she got pissed off that's where she decided that she would no longer be Eric's mistress, right? After all of that. So that's where we pick up with book two, Mistress No More. So let's get into it. Let's get into it. So before we get to Teresa say that's where her fast tail get. Jesse was a Jezebel. Girl, she was a whole Jezebel out here sleeping with that woman husband and had the audacity to, girl, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna get into it. So anyway, going into our book number two, we start off with Jessa basically recounting how she made a fool out of herself, right? When she sent the text message, she taunted her friends when she knew only one of the friends were the ones that actually had to be worried about her sleeping with their husband. And she realized she made a mistake because Eric never showed up that night. She went through all of the stuff that she went through, waiting. And the thing is, and this is the thing about these side chicks, we'll talk about them a little later too, but this is the thing. He don't ever leave. It's actually the wife that decides to leave. He never leaves. So he called her and basically said, Jessa should have never sent the text message because she put him in a bad space with Jamie, right? And we knew she was going to do that by sending the message. It was basically like she was trying to force him to go ahead and make a decision. And he was basically telling Jessa that, you made a mistake by sending the message because I at least owed Jamie a face to face conversation, not just through a text message and then I just not show up at home. So now she was mad because she realized that she made a fool out of herself, by thinking that that man would come running home to her right after she sent the text message. So, and remember, she put her house in Richmond Hills on up for sale. She had actually leased this big old house that she and Eric was supposed to be sharing together. She cut ties with all of her friends, right? Because after that infamous message, there's no coming back from that. And she basically said they went from making plans of being together forever to him telling her that they need to slow down. Now imagine that. What was your thoughts when you read that part of Jessa actually saying um that they went from planning there forever to now him actually having the audacity to tell her they need to slow down? Like, how dare you say we need to slow down? And I sold my house, well, put my house on the market, and now I have this big lease that I have with this property that we're supposed to be selling, living in together and building this new life. And you had the audacity to tell me now we need to slow down after all of that stuff. Like she went through, which of course it was her own doing that she sent the text message, because she should not have sent that text message. She shouldn't have sent the text message. She had no business reaching out to that man's wife or her friends for that matter, especially if she already knew that it was only one of the husbands. So it just showed us that she really weren't their friends as much as they were friends to her, because she involved all of them in her mess. And her beef really should have only been, which she shouldn't have had beef with with either of the wives. But if she was going to feel a way about any of them, it should have only been Jamie, because it was Eric that she was sleeping with. So she should have never done that. Um, right, Janice. After all that, Gia says that's typical behavior when the man had no intentions of really leaving. She was delusional. She was definitely delusional. Eric wanted his cake and eat it too. And he was enjoying. Oh, we're going to talk about his tear, because wasn't he crazy? Oh my goodness, that fool was a fool. He was a fool. So do you all think that it was actually a slap in the face? How did y'all feel about Jessa pouring her heart out in the beginning? When this is before we got, into the book and found out, the things that were transpiring. We're in the beginning of the book where Jessa is telling, basically saying that she feel like she made a mistake for sending the text message. She made a mistake for believing that Eric was going to leave Jamie and come running into her arms. She made a mistake for putting her house on the market and getting in this lease. Was that a slap in the face or what? How do you feel? Because did you feel any kind of remorse for her and what she was feeling um, when she was pouring her heart out in the beginning of the book? Did y'all feel bad for her? Yes, Teresa, he was the craziest of all. Did y'all feel Jessa? Did y'all feel bad for Jessa just a little bit? Teresa said, I don't feel no ways tied for her ass. Jill says, no, ma'am. I don't either. She got what she got, right? That's exactly what she get. Jada says no remorse. She earned everything she got. She earned everything she got. She really did. Yes, Gia. Eric was definitely certifiable. He was crazy. He was delusional. Girl, he was a whole man. And listen, and we haven't even gotten the gist of, his history. So we got to keep reading. Eric is definitely certifiable. So how did y'all feel when Jessa was on her way back to the audacity of her to be trying to move back into Richmond Hills? She would, did y'all hear that part? So when she was basically getting ready to pull up to I was actually shocked when she went up to the security gate and Lucky was getting ready to walk her back in, let her back in, and she was sitting there. She actually was going back so that she could confront Jamie about her husband. How did y'all feel about that? I was sitting there like, girl, that's when I was clutching my pearls, because the audacity of you to be trying to come and confront this lady about her husband. You were sleeping with her husband. You sent the text message. How are you coming to confront her about her husband? Gia says, Aria had me high fiving. Girl, listen. How did y'all feel about that? Were y'all pissed at her about that, for having the audacity to try to move back into Richmond Hill? And remember how their houses were situated. She was actually next door to Eric and Jamie, but keep in mind, this was before she had even known that Jamie had already moved out. So Jessa didn't know this. All she knew was Eric didn't show up when she thought he was going to show up, and he wasn't giving her what she thought he was going to give. He told her basically, we need to pump the brakes. So she thought he was at home trying to work things out with Jamie, but Jamie had already moved out. Right. That was the insane part, Janice. Teresa said she had a lot of nerve. That was clearly a B without girl. Listen, a biatch without boundaries. She had absolutely no boundaries whatsoever. So I definitely did not feel sorry for her for that, because it was the audacity for me, and audacity was at an all times high for her in this book. So it was the audacity for me, feeling like she actually had some sort of stake or claim on this married man. This was a whole married man. You set yourself up for failure, because, for one, again, he was married, and number two, you went against girl code. This was your friend's husband, and the fact that they had been messing around long before Jamie even started her little rendezvous. We'll get into that as well. So now let's move on to Jamie. Moving on to Jamie's part of the story, Jamie starts with This actually being 1 month after the infamous text message came through. Jamie was having a ball, honey. You hear me? Her and Pleasure was getting it on. Jamie was having the time of her life. Teresa says, and she knew he was married. She hung out with him. Absolutely. She knew he was married. She hung out with them. She hung out with them when before Mark passed away, and she hung out with them after. Like they accepted and embraced her, as the single friend that had just lost her husband, and the fact that she had the audacity to be sleeping with one of them behind the scenes. So that was diabolical. So again, getting back to Jamie. So Jamie basically she started to think about how all of her life that she had played the role of being, Miss Perfect, the perfect daughter. She said she was the perfect wife. She was the perfect friend, all of the things. And she said none of that really gave her a chance to really just be herself or to even know herself until she met Pleasure. He was her muse. He allowed her to just live out loud without trying to be perfect, right? She said that she left Eric. She was over the verbal abuse and the degrading sex, and said that the text message had actually been her key to unlock the door to the prison of her marriage. And I thought that was deep because she was living basically in prison behind the scene, and she hadn't even opened up to Aria or Renee to even give them details on what was really going on. So that's why she didn't put up a lot of fight when she found out that it was actually Eric. Jamie did not fight. She basically just left. She left. She decided to move on, move out. But the nerves of him after you were the one cheating and you had the audacity, now you are, girl, isn't it always when you catch them, now all of a sudden they want to talk and they want to work it out and work on their marriage? Girl, Gia says Pleasure was draining Jamie's pocket. Girl, draining them pockets dry. You hear me? Teresa says Pleasure. OMG. Pleasure had Jamie sprung. Gia says the way I cackle when Jamie's mother saw Gia, I hollered. You hear me? And again, that's what she get, because anybody tell you to be bouncing, your little self just gonna flounce on up in there and not knowing. But actually it was Pleasure that walked from the back while her mama was in there. And I'm sure he was back there ear hustling behind the door, hearing the mama trying to tell Jamie what she should and should not do. And he popped out there, girl, just as naked as he was born. A mess. Genesis. Yes, her nose was wide. Oh, girl, wide open. Girl, Pleasure had her on her back. You can girl, I was so tickled. I was so tickled. So she was basically saying that Pleasure just allowed her to live out loud without trying to be perfect. And she said that she just couldn't imagine actually living through all of the stuff that he put her through just because he found out she cheated with Pleasure, went all along. And I was sitting there like, you put her through all of that. And I think when book one, it said that she had went through that for like 6 months at the time. So she went through all of that abuse for 6 months after he overheard her at the strip club with Pleasure over the phone that night. But you was having a secret affair with her friend behind her back the whole time. So it was the audacity. I told you audacity was a all-time high throughout the entire book. It was the audacity for me. You were sleeping with my friend behind my back the entire time. And you put this lady through living hell for 6 months because you overheard her cheating on you over the phone. It was the audacity for me. Gia says, what about the neighbor? Girl, Gia. Lucas. That was Lucas. Girl, we ain't gonna even talk about Lucas. We're gonna get to Lucas. Girl, wasn't that a mess? And I always thought something is weird about Lucas. And I know we're gonna hear some more about Lucas, but something is off with Lucas. I don't know if y'all caught that, but something is off with Lucas. Janice said I couldn't breathe for several minutes just imagining her. Teresa say when Pleasure saw Lucas, I hollered, girl, yes. Hey, Stacy. Thanks for joining, sis. How are you? Girl, I hollered too when Pleasure saw Lucas. Gia says, I think Eric was mad he got outdone. That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. He was mad, but he was possessive and controlling. He was possessive. Girl, Teresa, we're not gonna even talk about Lucas being no 1 minute guy. Lucas say he was excited, Teresa. Give Lucas a break. He wasn't expecting. He wasn't expecting that. Jamie rough handled Lucas in his defense now. She rough handled him. He was not expecting to get thrown on the back seat like that. So we got to show Lucas some grace. We got to show Lucas a little grace. Um, but anyway, so we saw that Eric, of course, continued trying to force Jamie to come back home, right? Right, Janice, jump in the back seat. Lisa, yes, he was a whole minute man, girl. He was excited. Lucas was just excited. He was overly stimulated. She just took him by surprise. She rough handled him. So I wasn't too mad at Lucas because it wasn't his fault. It was actually Jamie's fault because she put him in a sticky situation. So anyway, Eric continued to try to force Jamie to come back home, right? Which was crazy to me because after you had an affair with my friend, one that you had no intentions of ending until she sent that text message. And even then, do y'all think that he had any intentions of ever stop seeing Jessa? This was even after she had sent the text message because he was still trying to force Jamie to come back home, but he still was blowing up Jessa's phone at the same time, too. So, do you think that he had any intentions of cutting off the relationship with Jessa at all, or do you think he just wanted to force Jamie to come back home to just move forward with things as usual? I really don't think that he would have cut Jessa off. I really think that his sick, demented mind wanted to just have Jamie back for his own sick pleasure to just continue. For one, of course, you know how he was about his image. He cared about his image, so he didn't want people to feel like to know his business that they were getting a divorce. But I really, really think he only wanted her to come back for his own sick, demented thoughts. He wanted to continue to do the things that he had done. Oh, nasty. He was a nasty old Negro, wasn't he? Teresa said, girl, it may have been less than a minute. It may have been. He would have kept seeing her. I believe he would have kept seeing her too. Janice said, no, I think he's a sex addict. I think he's a demon. I think it's deeper than him just being a sex addict. Because if we remember when Jessa was explaining her relationship with Eric, it was the total opposite of the experience that Jamie was having with her husband. So it was something off with Eric. It was deeper than him just being a sex addict, I think. I think it's something deeper with him. Rosemary says, I think Eric is a misogynist. He wants both women. That's exactly what he wants. He wants both women, and I think he wants them both for different reasons. I think he wants Jessa, the one that he can handle like he handled her, because he handled her a whole lot differently than he handled Jamie. But Jamie, I think that he wanted her for that sick, sadistic type sex appeal that he had. Because remember, he had all the how she say he had that room set up with all the whips and chains and all of that demented kind of demonic stuff. And I think that's what he wanted. He had like a sick fetish, if that makes sense. And I think he wanted Jamie to be that, and he was using the excuse that Jamie cheated as his way of actually releasing that. But again, he was having a whole affair with his Jamie cheated one time. At that time, she had only cheated with Pleasure one time, but he was having a whole full-fledged affair with this lady in Jamie's face, and you got the audacity to act like you feel away for one time. Come on now. Teresa says, well, we know he was still leaving her text messages. Absolutely. Voice messages for sure. Yes, Janice, 50 shades of something. Definitely 50 shades of great-ish. So before we knew about um Eric's situation further in the book, did you think that he was being sincere when he really wanted to work on his marriage? Do you think he was being sincere? Because we know he called her all day, every day. He was texting her, leaving her voicemails, and, Jamie, come home. I want us to work on our marriage. Did you feel like he was being sincere? Do you feel like Eric was being sincere? Gia says he actually was giving signs of sadism. He sure was. Teresa says, wait, Jamie was on her second go round when she accidentally went live with pleasure. Oh, that was the second go round. Well, that was the second go round, but that was the first time that he had actually caught her. But again, I think she like in book one, was it when she first met pleasure at that bachelor party? Because remember, that's when she got his card. And that's when she started calling him because again, Eric wasn't laying it down at home. And that's what the sad part about it is. You're giving Jessa a totally different side of you than you were giving your own wife. Because remember, their relationship or their intimacy just was not top tier like the relationship that Jessa was saying that she had with Eric. It was totally different. So she was giving something, which again, too, that just goes to show just how different we are as women. We like different things and different things pleasure us and all of this kind of stuff. But Jessa had a totally different outcome than Jamie, and Jamie was the one that was married to him. So, um, Rosemary says, I think Eric wanted Jamie because she fit the role he needed to present for his business. Absolutely. She was what is she called? The Stepford wife. She definitely presented the image. She was prim and proper, and she of course, had the mother that would keep her in line. And she was the socialite. She was all the things that he wanted for the outer appearance. And Jessa was apparently his freak in the streets, freak in the sheets. So I totally agree with you, sis. Tree says, right. He was making love with Jessa and effing Jamie. That's exactly what he was doing. She was a domestic housewife. That's all she was. She was the appearance. She looked the role. She played the role. She bounced just right into place when, they were hosting their extravagant dinner parties and, sitting with the who's who amongst everybody in Richmond Hills, right? So she was definitely being the housewife for sure. Do you think Jamie should have went to counseling with Eric? And now let's act like we don't know what he did. This is in the beginning when she first left. Yes, Jessa sent the text message. Yes, Eric was treating her how he was treating her. At this time, she did not know that Eric was sleeping with Jessa. So at this point, he is a husband that's trying to get his wife to come back home, and he's offering to go to counseling. Do you think Jamie should have went to counseling? Do you think Jamie should have went to counseling with Eric to work on her marriage? Hey, Melanin Beauty. Thanks for being here, sis. Teresa says, imagine hosting a dinner party and his mistress saying, girl, listen, on site, Jessa, on site. Every time you see her, it's like an on site because I wouldn't remember nothing but that text message. Every time I saw her on site, for sure. On site, for sure. Janice says, yes, Teresa. He should have been more in love with his wife. Absolutely. And that's the sad thing about it. How you gonna love the mistress more than you love me? And I'm the one sitting here putting up with all of this stuff. Make that make sense. I agree, Rosemary. Excuse me. Eric was so arrogant until counseling would have not helped. I totally agree. I don't think counseling would have helped Eric. I totally agree. And for one, I don't think he actually wanted the actual counseling. Because if we keep in mind, when he called her asking her to go to counseling, that was with his pastor. And remember, Jamie said, "That's not my pastor, that's your pastor." I'm not Catholic, you're Catholic. So I totally agree. Teresa says at the time nobody knew each other was cheating, so why not go to counseling? That's true. Well, no, at the time, this was when he started begging her to go to counseling. This is when she had moved out of the house. Remember, she left. This was before she actually had found out that it was actually Eric at that time. But she left because she was just tired of how he was treating her and how he was abusing her. So she actually walked out and left. Janice says no, they needed to work on themselves individually. I totally agree. Individual counseling should have been what they needed to do first. But again, he wasn't willing to even do that because he still was texting and calling and popping up on both women. He had no intent on stopping his relationship with Jessica because keep in mind, he would not have left Jamie. Jamie left. He would not have stopped with Jessa. Jessa decided to just call it quits with him after he didn't uphold to the deal, right? So he wouldn't have left. Teresa says it would have helped. He needed a different kind of counseling. Oh, he needed some deep, intense therapy. He need no counseling about the marriage. He needed some internal work. Right, Gia. Gia says Eric was too far gone for counseling. He was definitely too far gone for counseling. And I was tickled when she was like, the whole time he calling and texting her. No, he had called. Remember, Eric had called Jamie on the phone, and Pleasure was there. Pleasure was in the house. Remember, Pleasure was taking his pants off, and Eric was saying, Jamie, are you okay? She moaning and groaning, child, because she looking at Pleasure pulling his pants down over there, and Eric on the phone talking about Jamie. Are you okay, Jamie? We need to go see the pastor after church tomorrow. Girl, I fell out. Jamie said that is not my pastor. That's your pastor. Jamie had a whole meal she was getting ready to feast on, and Eric on there talking about some counseling. I say, boy, bye. You are the furthest from her mind at this point. Gia says, I think something happened to him when he was at good point, Gia. Good point. Because um, if you remember, I think it's in this book. You remember they had a conversation. She and Eric, Jamie and Eric had a conversation, and you remember she asked him something along that line, and it's almost like something flipped with him when she was like, "What really happened to you at that Catholic church?" And you remember he was like, "Why did you say that? Why did you say that?" So I definitely believe something happened because remember he kept telling her, "Take it back, take it back." So I do think something happened at that Catholic church for sure. Teresa said Pleasure was a whole mess, a mess and a half, child. Yes, Janet, she got off that phone quick. Yes, Gia, he got really irate. He really did get irate. And yes, Teresa, he did get upset. So um he was a whole nutcase. There is something deeper going on with Eric. We'll find out. We all know how the end of this book ended. So we getting ready for a plot twist in book 3. But now let's move on to Aria and Kingston. I don't know about y'all, but Aria was pissing me off. And Aria was my girl in book 1. Aria was my girl because I feel like Aria was real. You know, she came from the hood. She was smart. She went to school on her scholarship. You know, she did the darn thing. She met this doctor. She got married. She basically was not a victim of her circumstances, right? But Aria was disappointing me. Did Aria disappoint y'all in this book? Rosemary says, yes, Jamie insinuated that he was touched by the priest in the Catholic Church. She sure did. She sure did. Teresa says, Aria got on my damn nerves. Girl, me too. Oh my goodness, she got on my nerves. Janice says Pleasure was wrong as hell for offering his business card to girl. Jamie was ready to throw them blows. You hear me? Because how dare you heifers take this card and you see him come out? He was wrong for that. He was definitely wrong for that. He was definitely, but yes, Aria really worked my nerves. So we started off with their story. They decided to go to counseling because apparently they had a big fight. They had a big fight. We know at the end of book one, Aria was doing too much. We're trying to find out if Kingston was cheating, right? Because we all know at this point all the husbands came home after the text message, and she basically was pretty much insinuating that he actually slept with Jessa. And at some point, you get tired of being blamed for stuff that you know you haven't done. And he kept telling her, no, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. And keep in mind, again, like I say, at this point, none of the ladies had even spoken at this point. None of them knew who the corporate actually was yet. None of them knew yet because all of the husbands came home from the fishing trip. They just know that their husbands came home and all of them said it wasn't me. They all addressed the text message, the elephant in the room. They all said it wasn't me. And they assumed that it wasn't their husband, but they hadn't spoken to each other. So they didn't know what was actually going on with Eric and Jamie at the time. Because remember, Jamie is the only one that picked up and left after the guys came from the fishing trip. But they hadn't talked to each other. So they didn't know what was going on in each other's household. So my question is, what were your thoughts on how Aria was handling Kingston? Do you think she was doing too much? Yes, Teresa. Teresa says Aria was her favorite too. Yeah, I can't. She got on my nerve. Yes, Gia. Aria was definitely self-destructive. Aria had a good man, and she about ruined it. Right? Yes, Janet. She was very self-destructive. She had no reason to even think he slept with her. Gia says, in my opinion, she kept blaming him because of her past indiscretions and bad behavior. Yes, Teresa, way too much. Yes, Janice say way too much. Rosemary said her past was just too great for her to have successful marriage without her getting counseling. Her trust efforts was just overwhelming. That's exactly what it was, and that's the thing. I feel like she should have went into counseling even before this whole text message thing because Arya has some stuff. She has some stuff, and as you know, her story proceeded in this book, we saw that she was doing the work. She was putting in the work, going to therapy, and really deep diving into her own personal issues. But Aria has some stuff with her, and her stuff was filling into her marriage. And that's why she couldn't see past the fact that, girl, you actually have a good. And I liked the Kingston. Kingston was my favorite. He was my favorite. He didn't give me a reason to believe that he was actually doing anything. And I do know that you can only accuse a person for so long until they actually either start doing what you're accusing them of or they decide to just forget it and walk away. Yes, Teresa, I loved Kingston. Yes, she did have a lot of baggage, and her stuff did catch up with her. That's the thing. Her stuff did catch up with her because she did a lot. She did a lot. And I remember, if y'all remember back in the first book, remember when she and Kingston was at this party and one of her past tricks approached her at the party and Kingston punched him? I was mad at her then because that was her out. That was her opportunity to free herself and her opportunity to open up and tell her husband, to be honest with her husband, because you got a whole doctor and y'all out in public and all of this kind of stuff. Why would you put him in a position to even have to get to a point to where he got to address dudes for walking up to you and disrespecting you? And these are dudes from your past. So I feel like that was her out. There was her opportunity right there to sit him down, go to counseling, however you want to do it, and have a conversation about, this is what happened. You can tell him without telling every single detail, but open up and be honest about the situation. Because again, and he said this in the book that I married you for you, not because of your past. I married you because of who you were when I met you, because we all have a past. None of our past are squeaky clean. You know, we've all been through some stuff. We've all done some stuff. We've all made some mistakes, some things that we're not proud of. But the fact that he saw her for who she was at the time they got married, all of that other baggage, the reason why it was following to her marriage is because she hadn't come to terms with it. She was still holding on to all of this baggage and the secret that she was keeping, and she should have been honest. And because she wasn't honest, this is why she was going through what she was going through. And I do like how the author did highlight in this book the issues that all of the relationships actually were facing. None of them were perfect, right? On the outside looking in the gated community of Richmond Hills, they all look like amazing upscale couples, right? They were going through, but behind those closed doors, they all individually were going through their own issues. So I really, really appreciated Niobia for highlighting that and showing that this is what it looks like on the outside, but baby, on the inside, we got some baggage, we got some stuff that we are dealing with. We are all going through our own individual issues, and a lot of that is the reason why the friends at this time had not connected with each other after the whole infamous text message, because they all were dealing with some stuff and none of them knew. You know, because if you remember, they all had said the times that they tried to reach out to each other, but nobody was answering the phone or returning calls or what have you. So none of them really knew the details of what they were each individually going through. So I really liked being able to see that in the book, and I like that the author actually highlighted that and gave us a little bit more insight about, you know, their family dynamic and what they was going through. And before we got to the whole finding out that it was actually Eric that slept with Jessa, did y'all think that Kingston had actually slept with her? Do y'all think Kingston had slept with Jessa? I never thought it was Kingston. I didn't know who it was, but for whatever reason, Kingston did not disappoint for me. I never thought that it was Kingston. Never thought that it was Kingston. Did y'all? Teresa says she never thought it was Kingston. Janice says Kingston sounded as if he wanted to be a good husband. Yes, he wanted to be, like, he was doing everything right. Gia says, I like Arya's mom. Oh, girl, Arya's mom was a beast, wasn't she? I liked her too. I liked her too. Teresa says, I was mad at her too. There are so many women who can't have children. She could have at least told him. And that's what he said, even though we couldn't naturally conceive, but we could have adopted, we could have did in vitro. There were so many options, and the fact that she robbed him of that, like, she could have been honest, but again, she was selfish. So if we want to call a spade a spade, Arya was selfish. She went into her relationship knowing that she had issues conceiving, so she thought, right? She had, and I don't think we even got to where it was actually explained where she came up with the fact that she could not have kids. I know that she had a couple abortions, but she never told us who told us that she could not have kids and where that actually came from. Maybe it was just because she knew she had had the two abortions and she just thought she wouldn't be able to conceive kids because it had taken her so long. But again, she was very selfish because she went into her marriage the wrong way. So how dare you sit up and try to accuse this good man? This was one of those, he's a good man, Savannah, type men. So how dare you, go into the relationship file, and then you thinking that, you just holding him, just trying to hold him on this pedestal as if he's doing something, but you haven't yet found anything. So I didn't like that about her. So she was pissing me off in these moments. She was pissing me off. Teresa says, I believe Kingston still wants to make his marriage work and will if she gets her act together. I agree. I never thought it was Kingston. Neither did I. Gia says she didn't. Rosemary says, I thought it was Eric because he would be the least of anyone's choice. Girl, and you know what threw me though, Rosemary? Because of how Jamie was saying how he just wasn't good and she was so disappointed on her wedding night because she waited until marriage before they were intimate, and how disappointed she was. I did not think it was Eric. Who did I even think it was? I know I did not think it was Kingston. I did not. Kingston was never. I may have thought it was Jackson. I may have thought, because in the beginning, I think I was kind of leaning on the sides of she was just lying and it was neither of the husbands, but I never thought it was Kingston. Never thought it was Kingston. Teresa says exactly. I was wondering who told her she couldn't have kids. Right. Yes, Teresa, a good man, Savannah. He ain't Janice. Janice said Eric ain't shit, and he ain't. He is not. He is not. Did you think that Arya was projecting her own insecurities onto Kingston because of her skeletons? Do you think that's why? Do you think she was projecting her own insecurities? Teresa says, try to use ish or something. YouTube be tripping. Oh, yeah, YouTube do be tripping with the curse words. So, tailor the way we do it so they don't flag it. Rosemary says, if I'm not mistaken, she did visit a doctor and he did tell her that it was a big possibility that she would not be able to bear children. Oh, okay. And I think I remember reading that somewhere. I was wondering where she got that from and if it was an official um that official reading from a doctor that actually told her she wouldn't be able to bear children. And again, like Kingston was saying, why would you go through this alone? Like knowing you were carrying all of this stuff. And basically, when we get further on into the story, that's basically what he was telling her. So basically, you just didn't trust me. You didn't trust me to be a good man. You didn't trust me to be a good husband. You didn't trust me to not cheat. And you didn't trust that I would walk through this situation with you about you not being able to bear children. And that's exactly what it was. She didn't trust him at all. She didn't trust him. And I remember she made a comment. Remember when they were sitting at the therapist's office, she made the comment that Kingston was just too good to be true. It was almost like, regardless of what he was saying, she just kept telling herself, I know he's doing something. I just hadn't caught him yet. So, and she always said that she was just waiting for something to pop off. So she couldn't believe that her marriage could be that perfect. And again, that had a lot to do with who she was and her disbelief in herself, that she herself, out of everything that she had been through in her life, that she could possibly pull somebody like Kingston, right? That's basically what she was saying. She didn't think she was good enough to have a husband as good as Kingston. That's why she just kept like, I know he's doing something, but dang girl, the way you was stripping him and smelling his drawers when he walked through the door, you calling his job, you pulling up on when did he have the time to actually do anything? That was the thing for me, and that is so overbearing. So I was actually surprised that Kingston actually stood through it as long as he did, because good Lord, there was a lot. I was saying, girl, you looking for something that's just not there, but you bringing your own unresolved issues into the marriage. Like you just kept trying to find something that absolutely was not there. Trying to find something that was not there. Teresa says that he's a whole doctor. I know he felt she didn't trust him. Come on, Ari. Hey, Sharon. Thanks for being here, sis. How are you? Yes, Janice. Aria was doing way too much. Way too much. And I didn't like that. And I was sitting there like, girl, you got this man up here basically telling you, um, how much he love you and how much y'all are to, how much he trying to make things work. And, and I think when she went to, let me see, they went to counseling. Oh, let me do a raffle real quick. Let me do a raffle real quick. Yes, Teresa, following behind her little friends, but fast tail. Let me do a raffle. Let me find my raffle question for y'all. Let me see how well y'all were paying attention in the book. Let me see. And I'm gonna do two of them. $10 raffle, y'all. $10 raffle. $10 raffle. Let me get my question. Give me 1 second. Yes, Sharon. Girl, Aria was working all our nerves. You hear me? I was ready to pop her myself. I was like, girl, if you don't get your ish together. Let's see. My raffle question. Ooh, I'll let that be the second one. And this is the first person who put it in the chat wins the $10 raffle. The first person to put it in the chat wins a $10 raffle. And y'all, after we finish this series, the raffle for after we finish this series is actually something that'll have to be mailed to you. Is actually amazing. And I've been building it um, since the first one, since we have 6 books in this series. So it's going to be a nice little end cap to close this series. Let's go over to the first person who. Oh, that's too easy. That's too easy. Hold on, y'all. Janet says, what was Arya calling the game her and her cousin would do with the men? Oh, that was where they was robbing them and taking their money. I wrote that down. Hold on. Yes, Teresa, every nerd. Yes, she popped Jessica. Girl told her she popped it one good time. She actually surprised herself. Rosemary says, what is the name of the movie on TV and what channel? What channel did that come on? It's probably on one of those apps now, isn't it, Teresa? Hold on 1 second, 1 second, 1 second. Um, hmm, okay. What was, since we're talking about Aria? Okay, so the question is, and the first person to put it in the chat. Oh, it's on Prime, Teresa. I'm scrolling through my notes, y'all. Mm. We answered that one already. Okay, y'all ready? First person to put it in the chat. First person to put it in the chat. Let me put my comment in here. Hold on. Okay, first person to respond under my post. What was Arya's uncle's name? Arya's uncle that was always with her mom. What was Arya's uncle name? Go. First person to put it in the chat. And I'm watching both chats. First person to put it in the chat. Let's see. Janice says Uncle One Eye. Teresa says One Eye. Gia says Uncle One Eye. Rosemary says Two Eye, One Eye. Which one is it, Rosemary? Hold on 1 second. I got the orders. Excuse me. Mm, his name is Sharon say was Two Eye. Oh, child. Hold on. I highlighted that. I'm trying to find it. I got y'all, though. I got y'all in order. Let's see. His name actually was One Eye, Two Eye was a typo. Oh, no problem. Give me just a second. Let me get my notes. His name was the. Make sure we got it right. We got One Eye, Uncle One Eye, Two Eye, One Eye. Let's see who got it first. Sharon, don't be laughing. Hold on. I want to make sure we got this right. Yep. I had to confirm. I got it written down. Uncle One Eye. Uncle One Eye. Who was first? Janice, was that you? Janice won $10, y'all. Let me cash app Janice. Let me cash app her. Janice, do I have your cash app already? Let me see. Do I have your cash app already, Janice? If I don't have your cash app, text me your cash app, Janice. Janice say that's me. Text me your cash app so I can cash app you your $10. So I can make sure I'm sending it to the right place. Text me your cash app, sis. Uncle One Eye, y'all. Well, Uncle One Eye a mess. Uncle One Eye was a whole mess. Let me go back to my notes now since I had okay, so we just left off talking about Kingston and Aria. So now we go into Renee. So we left off with Kingston and Aria being at the counselor's office, and that's where Kingston was basically telling Aria that she was punishing him for nothing and basically ruining the marriage. And Arya was just insecure because of her own skeletons and her own secrets. I don't have Cash App. Thank you. Janice says thank you. You sure you don't have Cash App, Janice? Okay, that's okay. We'll talk. But Janice won $10. Congratulations, Janice. So now we move over to Renee. What did y'all think when y'all started reading Renee and Jackson's? situation. So we know they ended with the last book, Renee and Jackson's story ended with Jackson dropping a bomb. Does everybody remember what that bomb was that Jackson dropped? I'm sure y'all did. They ended the last book ending with Jackson dropping a bomb on Renee. And when this book started, it was right, Teresa, a whole baby girl. And that's what pissed me off. And she's sitting around here worried about if he was the one that actually slept with Jessa. But you out here done created a whole human. Yes, Gia, she became a whole alcoholic, getting lost in the bottle. Yes, Janice, a baby. When she started off, of course, she was going through her situation, and she kept saying, "Another woman is pregnant with my husband's child. Another woman pregnant with my husband's child." But what had me clutching my girl, she had to be a pink person, a whole Becky. Jamie out here done got a baby by a whole Becky. It doesn't matter the color of her. It does not matter. However, come on, Jackson. I was so disappointed. I was so disappointed. And then again, keep in mind when we ended, even though he dropped the bomb about the whole baby, keep in mind the reason they were having as many issues as they were having is because he was pissed off at the fact that she was going to work. And remember, we did not know why this man was so mad at Renee for choosing to get a job. We had no idea why he was so mad about her deciding to go to work. Like, and I kept trying to understand, and I say, I know it's something bigger that's going to come behind this, because it couldn't be just the fact that she was deciding to go to work, right? Yes, Teresa, and got equally pissed when she found out it was a clear woman. Girl, listen. Yes, Inga. Oh, Inga, child. Janice say, blonde hair, blue eyes. Girl, Becky got that arse whooped. Yes, Sharon, the baby. She sure did. Rosemary said Jackson had challenges of his own. He didn't want her to work because of an affair his mother had when she worked. I totally agree. And again, great job to Niobia for honing in and giving us a little bit more information on the couples, and just for everybody, on a scale of 1 to 10, put how you like the book. Like, how well did you like the book on a scale of 1 to 10? How well did you like the book? Drop it in the chat. 1 through 10. How well did you like the book? Gia says, did the daddy ever find out about the son? Girl, it didn't get to that at the end. You remember, we didn't even get to that point when the book ended. So that'll probably be more than likely in book 3. Because you remember, it was so much going on that they didn't even get to that point. Yes, very controlling. How about the son? Girl, 10. Janice says 10. Teresa says 10. Gia says 9. Rosemary says 10. Okay, okay, okay. It was good. And because you remember, book 1, we didn't have a lot of information. She wasn't giving us a lot of information on the couples. We just knew she painted the story. She's told us about the message. She painted the story, but we didn't have a lot of insight on why the women would even think it was their husband. So we knew it had to be something deeper. So I'm glad at the fact that she gave us basically what it needed to give. We were able to deep dive into their relationships to find out about, some deep issues that they all had as couples. So it was good that she actually painted the picture and um give us more details. Did y'all feel sad for Renee, and how she, with everything that she was going through, do y'all feel like she was handling it appropriately? Now, I don't like the fact that she was losing herself in the whole alcohol of it all, but I totally get it, because that was very detrimental. You've been married to this man for all these years. Y'all basically grew up together. You have 2 children, had seemingly a beautiful relationship. But then not only do I get this text message from my friend saying that it's a possibility that my husband could have slept with her, but then you drop a bomb and say that you got a whole baby. That was a lot. And this was even before we had gotten to the point that she found out that her son was gay. So she had a lot going on, and see how they, and all I could do was, as I was reading, I was sitting up here picturing Richmond Hills, and I was sitting up, picturing the beautiful homes, gated community, and the beautifully landscaped yards and all of this kind of stuff. But then behind those four walls of each one of their homes, they were going through just traumatic stuff, and they all had their own ish that they had to work out and work through. And I just hate that. And I get that they all got lost in their own personal issues, but I just hate that the friends didn't do more to reach out to each other before, they actually did. Like, it took them too long. I'm like, y'all friends. Like, girl, I'm on the phone with you. Girl, was it you? Did Kingston come home? Girl, did Eric come home? Did Jackson come home? Like, I would have been knocking on the door if I needed to, but I get that they were all so consumed with what was going on in their own households that they really didn't have time to think outside of that. So I really wish the friends would have, gotten, at each other sooner than what they actually did. Teresa says, I don't agree with the alcohol, but I understand she was dealing with a lot. Absolutely. And just like she was saying, the alcohol had became her muse, whereas with Jamie, pleasure had became her muse. Child, he was taking her mind off everything. But Renee was really getting lost in the bottle, because she said that, when she indulged in the alcohol, that kind of took her away from having to think about everything that was going on in the moment. But, as soon as she came down off of that high, it was still there, because she wasn't addressing it. She thought she could just drink it away, and she couldn't. Um, Janet said she was dealing with a significant amount of life issues, and I could understand the need to escape. Absolutely. I totally understand, her need, and I totally get that. And that's where I say I wish the friends would have like rallied around each other a little more, because, rallying around each other, they could have been each other's muse. They could have been each other's, voice and shoulder. And, we could talk this out together. But again, this also showed how, even on a friendship scale, if we're just looking at them as friends, they didn't even know that each other was dealing with what they were dealing with behind the scenes. Like, none of them knew that Arya couldn't conceive. Only the one person, the one knucklehead Irish person that knew all of their deepest, darkest secrets, was the one that was sleeping with one of their husbands, the one that ended up not even being the real friend, that darn Jezebel. All of them confided in her. Did y'all ask yourselves, like, out of all of the friends, why is it that it was Jessa that they all confided their deepest, darkest secrets in? And then on Mad Day, that heifer decided to tell everybody's business. That pissed me off with her. And I'm sitting there like, out of all of y'all, why did y'all all choose Jessa to lay your ish out on the table? Why was it her, opposed to why Arya couldn't talk to Renee, or why, they couldn't talk? And I get that, Jamie was the little snotty one and all of that kind of stuff. But out of all people, Jessa, like, they really let Jessa play in their faces. Like, she played the ish out of them. She really had them thinking that she was the best friend, the best person in the world, and this is the thanks that they got. So yeah, I ain't like that. Teresa says, and Becky was pressuring him to tell her. When she hung the phone up on her, I would have been in that office so fast, sick of them darn Becky's girls, sick of them. You hear me? Jill says, I think something is going to come out about the daughter. I think it is too, because the daughter don't went to stay with the granny. She ain't talking to none of them. She's sick of them. The daughter said, I'm going to stay with my grandmama. I can't deal with y'all. Y'all got a lot going on. Yes, Janice, that assistant. Sharon says, I agree, Teresa's not with the alcohol. Darren's little 20-year-old said, girl, what about the scene? That was book one. Yes, that was book one, with the scene where Darren, little tail, gonna try to go up there and sleep with Renee. Girl, couldn't even get that little peck of heart. Who child, he was not a pleasure. Teresa say all of them should have drugged Jesse from one end of Richmond Hill to the other end. Girl, right. Rosemary says not only did the alcohol dim some of the feelings she was experiencing, it also hurt her work. It did hurt her work performance, and we're going to talk about that too. Because so we went into her talking about the whole situation. Now, for me, and I've said this many times, cheating is a deal breaker for me. Cheating is a deal breaker for me because I would be like Aria, and this is confirmed cheating. I'm not talking about suspecting cheating. Confirmed cheating is a no for me because I would be like Aria. I would not be able to look past it. I would not be able to let it go. So why would I torture myself and stay in the relationship when I know every time you walk out this door, I'm going to be wondering, are you going to see somebody else? Or I feel like I got to go through your phone, or I feel like I got to pop up unannounced at your job to make sure you at work. It's a deal breaker for me. I can't do it. But a baby, a Negro bringing home a baby, that is a clear out. Because for me, that is the lowest form of disrespect a husband can do to a wife, is to bring an outside baby into the picture. Because for one, it shows me that you, even though you cheated, you didn't even respect me and my body enough to even cover it up. You went out here raw dogging this heifer, not just any heifer, a Becky at that. And then you thinking you gonna come home to me and we're having unprotected sex. Are you kidding me? Girl, that would have been an out for me. Hey, Robin, thanks for joining, sis. How are you? Teresa say, I couldn't have caught him in my house with my son. Y'all would have been visiting me in the penitentiary. You hear me? Girl, he would have been out of there. And I was just so pissed. And uh, so again, Jackson to me was the lowest of the low when it came to the men, because you brought a whole outside baby home, and the fact that you walk in this house and tell me that she wants to keep the baby. Of course she want to keep the baby. Of course she don't want to depart with the baby because she knows it's your baby. And the thing is, um, book 3 is going to give us some more information about this Becky. So we gonna learn like where this relationship and all of this stuff originated at. Was y'all pissed off when y'all found out that the heifer worked at the job? When remember when Renee had to call the job and ask for Jackson for whatever she was calling him for, and she had to call the office, and the girl answered the phone and she got an attitude talking about who is this? And Renee said this is his wife. Girl, I was ready to jump through this book on this. I was ready to jump through this book on this heifer, because who are you to question me, the wife? Like, what do you mean? Who is this? Like, girl, if you don't get out of here, Sharon says you're right. I could never trust you again. Right, I couldn't. So what we doing? Ain't no use in me. I don't care how much counseling we going through. I know in the back of my mind I always be thinking about it. So what's the use? We may as well just sever ties. Gia says yes. Janice says yes. Calling about the son. Girl, Teresa says yes. I was pissed. The girl hung up on her. That's why I said I would have. Girl, and that's the thing. I don't understand why Renee didn't pull up, because I would have pulled up. You hear me? I would have pulled up. And so it goes on to talking about Renee. Renee basically, after she had gotten so lost with the alcohol and all of this kind of stuff, so a lot of things with her was falling apart. Work was falling apart. We know home life was falling apart. She wasn't showing up, but I really did, and I was really like, it hurt my feelings. Did it hurt y'all feelings for her to walk in and see that Darren had actually been sleeping with her son? And this is why, because Darren like really was coming through for her. Like even in her weakest moments, Darren was stepping up and he was making sure that the work at the job was getting done so that people wouldn't, be looking at her any kind of way. Like he was coming and making sure that, she had everything together, because he did his job. He did the darn thing when it came to his job and making sure that everything was done. But I was sitting there Girl, I was not I wasn't ready. I was not ready when Renee stumbled in that house in the dark and walked up in there, girl, and caught Darren and Kieran. What's his name? Kieran? I think it was no, the girl name is Kieran. What was the boy's name? Aaron. When Renee he walked up in there in the dark and they didn't even know she was in there because she didn't turn the lights on. The girl, Kieran had Darren, Aaron tooted up, girl. I screamed. Did y'all scream? Because I screamed. I was like, wait a minute. What is going on? Girl, I was not ready. I was not ready. You hear me? I was like, what is going on? I was not ready. Teresa says, no, Sharon says, I kind of figured he knew more personally. Teresa says he was fraternizing and sexual harassment in the office. Yes. Jenna says that's when they went to lunch and he wanted to ride together. And she said, no, he was mad. Absolutely. That's when her and Jackson ended up, going back to her house. Because remember, at that situation, on that time, that's when he was following her and she was like, where he going? Because this isn't to the restaurant and he was driving to their house, remember? Girl, Jackson was ready to come home. Teresa says, yeah, Darren was peeping in so he could move in on that boy. Yeah, because you remember that one night where Renee had came from wherever she came from, and they were in there packing the envelopes and stuff because they was getting ready for that big event at her job. And she walked in, and Aaron and Darren was there. Actually, she was out in the park, she was out in the driveway getting drunk. Remember, she had gotten drunk and she stumbled in the house and they jumped when she walked in because they was in there packing the envelopes and stuff. Yeah, they probably was in there doing it then. Uh, Janice says she was so wrong for firing him because it wasn't work related and she was emotional. That's exactly what it was. Rosemary says, unfortunately, Renee introduced him to her son by allowing him to come to the house and do work that Renee was behind on. Absolutely, that's exactly what it was. She allowed him to come into the house because he was a typical a typical assistant. Like he was good at what he did, and like Janice said, it was wrong of her to fire him because it wasn't work related. It was like a personal situation. And I get he was her intern though. He was her intern, and how would that work relationship have actually been able to move forward knowing what she knew, right? So of course she had to let him go, but I just felt sorry because I'm like, but he held you down, sis. Like he was making sure work was getting done when you weren't, when you were consumed with your alcohol situation and dealing with your family issues and all of that kind of stuff. I just was not expecting it to actually be her son, though. That threw me off. I was not expecting that, and I could get where she was coming from because you remember when she said she walked in, she stumbled in the dark, and she said she sobered up real fast when she saw Aaron tooted up over by the stairs. Oh, child, yeah. I said, Lord, say it ain't so. Please say it ain't so. Because she was like, who is this? Girl, Darren was over there getting it in. You hear me? Yes, Teresa. I mean, caught in the act. Yes, Janice tooted up. Yeah, Jill, that sobered her up real quick. It was Sharon. It was a hot mess. Yes, relocate to another department. She could have relocated her to another department, but you remember he tried to threaten her in the beginning, saying that if she tried to come between his job, and we hadn't heard the last of Darren because you remember that last um look that he gave her when she called security and had security to escort him out, and he was looking at her and basically already told her that she hadn't seen the last of him. So we have not heard the last of Darren. Yes, Janice said my mouth dropped. Girl, I was not expecting that. And I was sitting there, I clenched my pearls. I say, Niobia. I was not expecting that scene. I was totally, because the son threw me. And then it threw me because, he had started to be the one that was really, really caring and trying to make sure that his mom was okay. He had started really checking on her. But you have to keep in mind, too, with all the craziness that was going on with Renee and Jackson, neither one of them really were checking in with the kids. They really didn't. Renee was quick to send them off to their friend's house and let them go to their friend's house or what have you. But they really weren't checking in to test the temperature of the kids, especially after she blurted out that their dad had a baby on the way. And you remember she said that they both started retreating to their bedrooms and they weren't coming out of the bedroom, but she was too consumed with her alcohol and her issues that she wasn't actually checking in with the kids. So she really didn't have a conversation with him to say, hey, do you like girls? Do you like boys? Or, you know what I'm saying? So we have to lay that onus back on, her and Jackson, because that was a missed opportunity for them both to, tap in with the kids. And again, these are a suburban family. They going to work, driving the fancy cars, living in nice houses, gated communities, and prestigious in their communities, but they're not tapping in with the kids. And the kids are, learning and living life like behind the scenes, and the parents had no idea of what they were going through. So I feel like she dropped the ball there. I just was not expecting that. I was not expecting that. Teresa says, when Renee went to see Jackson, she was going to tell him about the son, but ended up in the bed. When girl, right, and she was sitting there saying that they wasn't ready for that, and I knew either. And back to Jackson. Another thing that pissed me off too, because Negro, you don't went out here and got a whole baby, and now you want to be begging me, talking about can you come home and can you know what I'm saying? Like, were you thinking about being home when you was out there spreading it wide and busting it down with Inga? You weren't thinking about being at home in the relationship we had and the family that we had built and all of this kind of stuff. You weren't thinking about that. But now that she decided that, oh, this ain't gonna work, and she put you out, now all of a sudden you begging and pleading and you want to come home. That's the thing to be getting me with these Negroes. Y'all don't think about the consequences of your actions until the chick decides to walk away. Now all of a sudden, again, now you want to bring this baggage to me, because not only am I having to accept you back and us try to work on the issues we already had outside of, now you bringing some baggage from somebody else that you got to be connected to for the rest of your life, and you put me in a position to have to deal with it. Because if I let you come back, I got to deal with it. I can't mistreat the kid. Now you gonna have this other woman calling, want you to come over because she don't feel good, using you to get you to the house, using the baby to get you to the house. Now again, this is more baggage that you bring in an already effed up situation, because our stuff ain't peachy keen over here. So that's what I did not like about Jackson. You begging to come home, and not only am I allowing you back, because if I take you back, I gotta accept what you bring in too. And I don't like that. I don't like when men put women in positions like that. I don't like that. Um, Teresa says we need an edit button. Can you imagine that scene is in my eyes and it's not my son? Imagine if it was your girl. I don't know what I would have done. Sharon says when she saw that, she sobered up like she got stopped by the purple girl. Didn't she? I could just imagine she was like a deer with its in headlights, eyes wide and booked. Girl, she sobered up real quick. Teresa says it's on Prime, and Sharon says she found it on an app on her Fire Stick. Okay, great. Yes, Lisa, and laying it low, girl, busting it wide and laying. He was. Teresa says, I'm not being no damn stepmom to my husband's new baby by a dang Becky. You would never see the child if you came home. She ain't coming here and you ain't going there. So what we gonna do, boo? And he gonna want to see it. And that's the thing. That's why you have to tell yourself, that's something that you really have to ask yourself, is this something you'll be able to deal with? You got to ask yourself, like, that's some baggage for you. Because taking him back is not just taking him back. You bringing all of the baggage, bringing all of the baggage with you. How did y'all feel about when Renee was about to ram her car into the Becky? First of all, let's talk about the audacity. Now, I said the audacity was at an all-time high throughout the entire book. It is the audacity of Inga's ass to think she about to pull up at Richmond Hills and come to my gated community to get my husband. Girl, what did y'all think about that? Now I was sitting here like, now Inga, what we doing? Because the audacity of you to think you about to pull up in my gated community, and the fact that you got to call Jackson. Now we just got done with a little rendezvous, so apparently Inga must have went back to the office and saw that Jackson wasn't there, and Jackson wasn't answering his phone because remember Renee had woke him out, and he in there knocked out. He in there knocked out. Renee done found the stash of her liquor that she done stashed in the makeup bag. And girl, and I'm sitting here because I'm visualizing all these little minor details. I was paying attention to the details. And she was fiending for some alcohol. And she went into the bathroom while Jackson was asleep. She immediately got up saying that she made a mistake. They shouldn't have slept together. And she just needed a fix. So she remembered that she had a little stash in her makeup bag. And so now, me picturing makeup bag, I'm thinking one of the little small makeup bags that was sitting on the counter. And she said she looking back in the girl, that was a whole 20 ounce. I said, girl, what kind of makeup bag you got a whole 20 ounce? You remember she said she poured out the Listerine and she poured her liquor in there to mask that it was actually alcohol, and she had packed it away for a rainy day. And so she went and she drank the whole bottle. And I'm picturing I thought it was a little flask or maybe one of the little mini bottles of alcohol that she had stuck there. Sis said it was a whole 20 ounce. I said, Renee. Girl, I was like, oh girl, this lady ain't gonna never sober up. So Teresa says, some women do it, couldn't be me. Absolutely. Teresa says the audacity of Becky showing up. Right. Rosemary says Inga felt privileged and she had no respect for it. She had absolutely no respect. No respect. You know why? Because Jackson didn't have no respect for Renee. You lost respect for your wife when you slept with Inga. So the fact that you slept with Inga, that showed Inga that you didn't have no respect for Renee. So that made Inga feel like that she could punk Renee. You gonna just do what you want to, girl. She wasn't pregnant in the face. I would have been slapping Inga all upside her face. All up inside her face. Teresa says that's when you know you got a drinking problem, when you start hiding it. Absolutely. When you start hiding it, you know it's a problem. And she said that many times. She said it, and remember, even at that point, before it got to that day, she had decided that she was going to stop. But it just felt like every time something else came up, that was her muse. That was the thing that she sought out for comfort, and it was the drinking. So Inga pulled up at the right time on the right day because Renee had time today. Renee had got that little liquid courage in her, that little stash that she had. And when Inga had the nerves, no, it was Lucky at the front gate to call Renee saying that Inga was trying to get in the gate. Girl, I say Inga was big and bold as ish. Wasn't you gonna pull up? Inga was pulling up. She was coming to get her man. And this is the thing with side chicks. They don't play their role these days. Now, I get that my husband cheated and y'all did y'all little fling. But baby, he on my territory. He's still my husband. We still haven't went through no divorce. And the fact that you are going to pull up at my residence to try to either check or to get my husband, girl, Inga was big and bold. Inga was, I say, baby. I say, oh my goodness. Teresa said, no, Jill said that's why she snatched her hair out. Girl pulled a whole pluck. She plucked it. She plucked the gin. Three says English reason Renee is in jail and the drinking, of course. Right. Sharon says, or hiding the gin in the toilet bowl like Keith did on good. Yes, exactly. That's when you know they have a problem. So Renee decided that, oh, I done had enough. She had her little liquid courage, and Renee got in that car. Renee went outside and she was speeding. All I could picture was her car speeding around them curves up and down them hills of Richmond Hills and landed up down there at the security gate. So her intent was to run over Inga. And at the last minute, we know Renee decided that, no, I'm not going to do that. And that's when she swerved and hit the fence and she had the accident. And she woke up and was she in jail when she woke up, or was it the hospital? I think it was a jail. She had to go to jail. So Renee is in jail. Could y'all picture Renee in jail? I was laughing, and girl, and all I could picture, you remember the little butch lady that kept trying to get Renee's attention while she was in in jail? What was she calling her? Fish? Girl, why that girl was calling Renee Fish? Girl, I was laughing. I say fish. I said, why she calling her fish? Talking about, hey fish, hey fish, open up your legs. I was sitting there. All I could picture, y'all, was Cleo from Set It Off with the braids to the back. I was sitting there like, girl, why are you calling me fish? Jill says in jail with Big Bertha. Yeah, she was in jail with Big Bertha, girl. I was sitting there like, girl, if you don't go away from here, talking about some open your legs. I was like, oh my gosh. And so again, so Renee ended up going to jail. Renee ended up going to jail. She had to do her little time. She ended up getting sentenced with having to she was having to get an ROR, and then she had to, with those stipulations, she had to go into a facility. So she went into the alcoholic facility. She decided that she didn't want to hear from any of her friends during the time. She didn't want any visitors. She just wanted people to just write her letters and stuff. And that's, of course, when Jackson was sending her the letters and she was reading the letters. Aria and Jamie were writing her. The kids was writing her. That's when she found out that the daughter had decided to go stay with the grandmother. And that's also when Aaron wrote her and told her that him and Darren was still knocking boots, child. Aaron say they were still knocking boots behind the scenes, and he was basically touching base with her to make sure that um her situation wasn't caused by her finding out that he was actually gay, and he wanted to make sure that his mom still loved him. So I feel like a conversation will come, like once she's released and get home and try to get her life back together, and she can sit down and have a conversation with her have a conversation with her son, because he did tell her that he was in love with Darren. So that's going to be interesting seeing how that plays out, to how, to kind of just see like what happens with, does Darren come back? I already fired you, but you still sleeping with my son behind my back and all of this kind of stuff. And you remember Renee was she was wondering, like, that, did Darren tell him that we actually slept together and all of this kind of stuff? So she was wondering what Darren had actually told Aaron about their little secret rendezvous or what have you. So we'll see what comes up with that. What did y'all feel about Arya's mom? So we remember going back to Arya and Kingston after Kingston got upset. So you remember the next situation was in that darn Jezebel pops up on the scene again. Comes to find out, this is where she actually reached out to all of the husbands individually and told the secrets of the ladies. How did y'all feel about finding out that Jessa told the men the secrets? How did y'all feel about that? I was pissed at her. I was pissed at her because, for one, again, and I think Arya's mom said, no, this was Arya said to Jamie, because remember, Jamie came back. Jamie and Arya actually met at Arya's house because Jamie was going. This was the time where Jamie actually went over to Jessa's house. She was going, and Arya asked her where she was going. She said she was going to talk to Jessica because she just needed to know why. At this point, this is where the husbands had actually found out the secrets, because I remember when Renee was on the phone with Jackson, and Jackson had the nerve to be trying to get mad, talking about that's why I ain't want you to work. You had a fling with your assistant and all of this kind of stuff. And remember, Renee was trying to find out, how did Jackson get a hold of that information? Did y'all know that it was Jessica that had told at that point? Because I didn't. I didn't know that the heifer had, you know, reached out to the husbands and told the secrets of the ladies, because she pissed. You done moved back to Richmond Hills. You didn't get Eric like you thought you was. Now the Negro stalking you, and you mad and you want to get away from him, but he won't leave you alone. And you want to continue doing further damage to the ladies. And now you have exposed their darkest secrets that they haven't shown with their shared with their husbands, and now you've told that, so now they're dealing with that. So Renee had no idea, and I was reading, and as I was reading, I was like, well, why is Jackson acting like he married? And for one, I get, Jessa may have told you, Negro, about my little incident that I almost slept with Darren, but she hadn't yet told Jackson that Darren was actually gay. But the fact that he trying to act like he got a whole attitude about it, and Negro, you got a whole baby on the way. So at any point, whatever she did is null and void, because one thing she didn't do is bring an outside kid. So that negates the fact that you get any type of say so in trying to be mad. The audacity. It again, there go that audacity again. There it go again. Teresa says, I think Renee will find her ministry behind bars. I was actually thinking the same thing when she said that she actually took some of the phone numbers of some of the people that was there at the not at the behind the bars, but at the rehab that she was at, and how she was connecting with some of the people. I did like as well, now that you brought that up, I really liked when she was in jail waiting for her hearing, and the conversation that she was having with the lady in jail that was her cellmate, and how she said, well, I can't judge her because here I am sitting here behind the bars as well. But just hearing her story and hearing how the lady was basically saying, I'll do anything to stay behind these bars because of the hell that I had to go through at home. So she was actually being abused by her father, and she would do anything to stay in and out of jail. And then she also the person that she was running tricks with, the guy that she was dating or what have you, and he was putting his hands on her. So she was saying that she did things to stay in prison, in jail rather, so that she wouldn't have to come in contact with like her, the people that were violating her. So I really felt like those stories were touching Renee, and I feel like, especially when she got to rehab, and I was like, well, this is your ministry. And I think that, although she may not want to leave the foundation that she was working with, but because of the circumstances, she did resign. But I really, really think, Teresa, that her ministry will be with helping people like that. So I'm interested in seeing her story play out as to, what she does going forward. Teresa also says, I couldn't believe that the letter, I was like, you have got to be kidding, right? It's sad though, because Darren is probably the son's first, probably so. And he's 20. So he's 3 years older than the son. I remember her saying that, not too much of an age difference, but again, I'm wondering, like, and I'm sure it was Darren that advanced on him first. So, did you take advantage of him? Like, you know what I'm saying? So I had questions with that. So hopefully in the next book, we'll actually be able to get a little bit more details with that. Rosemary says, I was surprised when Jackson did not accompany Ari and Jamie to pick up Renee, that he was at the hospital because his mysteries was in premature labor. I was too, Rosemary, and I was sitting there side-eyeing him because I was like, is she really in labor, or is it that she just don't want you to go over here with Renee? See, she one of them. She one of them little biatches. She one of them that I feel like she going through with this pregnancy, she gonna be a thorn in the side. She's not one of them that's gonna just sit down and shut up and let this man do for the baby or what have you. She gonna be an issue. Um, Teresa says, I like Aria and Kingston's mom. I like Aria's mom, but I didn't like Kingston's mom, sis. I didn't like Kingston's mom because Kingston's mom was too much in the business. She was too much in their business as far as personal stuff. I didn't like that. We'll talk about that in a minute. Janice says Jessa was so wrong for that. Yes, she was. Teresa, I told y'all Jessa would have been drug up and down Richmond Hill. Girl, all the way. Yes, Stacy, she was so wrong. Jessa is nobody's friend. Hey, Miss Lady, she said, I've been in the bushes, just finished the Zoom meeting. I wasn't surprised. She's miserable and wanted them to be miserable as well. That's exactly what it was. She wanted them to be miserable as well. Jessa is definitely nobody's friend. Rosemary says, I think Jessa was looking for another man and she was just trying to figure out which of the three men would take the bite when it came to infidelity. I believe so too, because she realized that just Eric just wasn't it. And I think she actually said that now that you bring that up. Remember when she had the conversation with Kingston? She actually was saying that when she called and was telling him about it, he wasn't saying anything. He was just listening. So I think she was trying to take the bait because she did say that Arya had a good husband because he didn't bite. He didn't bite. So I definitely and you know she got a thing with Arya because you remember she said that she couldn't let Arya get away because Arya popped her in the head with that phone. Arya popped her in the head with that phone and she got a restraining order against Arya. So Arya can't go close to her. So that's when Jamie decided to walk. But Arya was in the street. Arya was like, I can't come all the way over there, but I'm gonna be right here when you come out. But I was so tickled when Jamie went in there. Jamie actually surprised herself when she popped Jessica because she said she had never had a fight before in her life. So she actually surprised herself. I said, girl, you should have gave her a wop wop a doo wop and just that one little slap just wasn't enough for me. But again, I get that she wanted to have, a little closure, but the fact that now you don't even want the Negro. Now you telling Jamie, like, girl, could you get your husband? And she playing all of the sick, demented messages about, with Aaron just still calling and texting her, begging her to come back and all of this stuff. And that's the same thing he was doing to Jamie. So he's playing both of the ladies. He was telling them both the same things. And remember when before Jessa came back to Richmond Hills and she was at the other place, remember when that Negro was standing outside jacking off outside? I was sitting here like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Remember, Jessa was just so distraught because she was like, Eric, what are you doing? He was literally standing outside of the door. She said, boy, you don't see these cars going by. He was like, can't nobody see me but you. Girl, I was so tickled. I was like, oh my gosh. Gia says, I was thinking that would be her next project. Girl, Teresa says, that's so sad. And there are so many people who run to jail for a safe haven. It really is sad. It really is. Especially a lot of the homeless people, sis. They go just so they can be off the street. Yes, Janice left his seed out on the window. You She say, Justice say, all I could do was I'm looking out the window. He got his head reared back. He got his head reared back and he just letting go. Girl, I hollered. I say, girl, that's what I do. I say, that Negro is sick. He is sick. He is sick, but I'm glad Jamie got her lick back a little bit. I'm glad she actually went to Jess's place and she got off her chest what she wanted to get off her chest, basically saying she didn't want him and all of that kind of stuff. Um, how did y'all feel about Jamie having to go back home? Remember, she had to go back to her parents' house because after Jessa went and told the men, that's when Eric put where he put a security detail on Jamie. He hired a private investigator to follow her around, because remember, he would always call her and she was wondering how the heck he knew where she was. So he knew that she was still going to see Pleasure. You remember he popped up on the night that she had Lucas in the car, and she checked her account. You remember she only had a few more little $1,000 left in her account. So after Jezebel told, she checked her account and she only had what, $50 left to her name. So she really didn't have right, Teresa. He repossessed her car. So he got all of the little money she had left in her bank account, and to the point to where, okay, now she had to suck it up and go home to her parents. But before we get to that, what did y'all feel about the scene? You remember when Eric tricked her? They were supposed to be talking about the divorce and they were supposed to go to dinner. Remember when she popped up and then her mama was there, her daddy, his parents, and the pastor was sitting up at, girl. Just to say, I mean, Jamie looked at him and she was like, I know this Negro did not. How you gonna try to stage a little, um, what do you call it when he wanted to how he tried to an intervention, basically. It was supposed to be a dinner and he done staged the whole intervention. And I was pissed off at her mama too, because first of all, you didn't live in the hell that I lived in. And the fact that forget your little Miss Goody Two Shoes. I don't care what people are saying, but the fact that, you're my mom, and without you even knowing the details of what I had to go through, you just care about your image and what people are going to be saying, and how they're going to be talking about me and you and all of this kind of stuff because I'm going through a divorce. Basically saying suck it up, buttercup, and go back. Unfortunately, that's a lot of what we deal with today. There are so many people who really don't know what's going on behind closed doors, but they be the first ones to say, well, you should go back. You should, it's not going to look good if you get a divorce. Y'all should work it out, and this, that, and the other. But you don't know the hell that I had to endure behind those closed doors. So, but especially as my mother, I would have thought that you would have been more on my side, basically. But you could tell her dad was. It's some stuff with that mama. I told y'all there's some stuff with that mama that's gonna come out. We gonna get into her story too. It's some stuff about Jamie's mom, but you could tell that her dad really was the one that was always, like she said, he was always the referee between her and her mom. But he's a yes man when it comes to his wife. Whatever she say goes. Um, so I was mad. I was pissed that she showed up to this dinner, but I was glad that she actually stood up for herself and walked away when she said, "No, we're getting a divorce." So he felt like he basically was trying to punk her into saying that she was coming back and to work on the relationship and all of this kind of stuff. Because at this point, you remember, neither of their parents actually knew about the whole Jessa situation. So he basically is still masking in the fact that her parents know that she had an affair, and that's what he was using as ammo against her to try to get them to force her to come back. And I didn't like that. So I'm glad she actually chose herself and decided to walk away and say, no, we're still going through the divorce. And she walked away. But when she found out that her money was gone, I hated that she had to go back to her parents for money, but she didn't have a car, so she had to catch a cab to her parents' house, and basically had to walk the walk of shame because she had to ask them for something, because she hadn't had to ask them for stuff in years. And I love the fact that you could tell, because Niobia did a good job at painting, being really descriptive at the behavior of her dad while she was telling him about the things that Eric had done to her. You remember how she was saying how he had his fist clenched, and you could see the veins popping up in his forehead, angry at what Jamie was telling him about Jessa. And he didn't ask any other questions when she said she needed money. He went right away and wrote a check and brought her a check and gave her the keys to the Honda, gave her the keys, and basically was telling her that you don't have to allow another man to control you or what have you. It was to that mama, that darn mama, You remember she called the daddy over there and whispered something in his ear, and that's when they came back with these stipulations that, basically Jamie had to abide by the rules, the stipulations of the agreement in order, to have this money in the car. You got to go to church. You got to let pleasure go. You got to get back involved in like your sorority and the stuff in the community to help build, build your business or what have you. But I was so tickled when Jamie was like, pleasure. She said, girl, please. I was like, now, daggone well that girl ain't about to let pleasure go. She is not letting pleasure go. And I was sitting there looking at her mama like, girl, of all the stipulations, why would you include pleasure? Ain't got nothing to do with this. Let that girl continue getting pleasure. Like, don't even do that. Rosemary says the son's letter to Renee stated that Darren was not his first. Oh, you are right. He did say that wasn't his first. He did say that he had um that he's been gay. So he did say that. Yes, Teresa, the family dinner. Yes, Gia, it was a whole ambush. Teresa says Jamie's mom and dad act like she's 16. She's a grown woman. Absolutely. They absolutely do treat her like she's still a little girl. And that's because Jamie, you remember she said she never really had a voice before. Whatever they wanted her to do, she would do it. That's even with Eric. Whatever he wanted her to do, however he wanted her to show up. Same thing with her parents. So she said she never had a voice for herself. So this whole situation with her leaving Eric was actually her walking away from all of that, and now getting back to trying to have a voice for herself and doing some things that she wanted to do. So so this is exactly what she needed to get herself away from that. Yes, her mama had that pride. Her mama definitely had pride. Teresa says Jamie was so funny when she was at the church and Pleasure sent the message of the painters. Girl, I said, now how you sending a painter's pic at the church? She is in the Lord's house and she opened it up. It's a good thing she had it in her purse. And you remember how she said everybody around her was looking at her when she jumped? Yes, Janice, she called pleasure the second she left with that check. You hear me? And the thing is, she didn't even look at the amount that was in the check, so she don't even know um, what was in it. And what did y'all think about her dad actually negotiating the details of her divorce? I was shocked when I heard that. Were you all shocked when you um heard her daddy say something about Eric denied the first what did he say? Um First deal or something, and she denied it. And you remember she looked at him like, what do you mean? He denied it. How in the world is her daddy just taking it upon himself to reach out and try to come upon an agreement about my divorce? Like, how do you know what she wants in the divorce and what she don't want? Were y'all shocked? Yes, Teresa. Rosemary says the father was egotistical as well. He felt at that's not a woman's place to negotiate her own divorce. Yeah, that's crazy. It's something. I told you we're getting a little deeper into her parents. But something is going on. And then I also paid attention. So you remember when she asked to use her dad's phone? She asked to use the phone and she went and called the last number, which was the attorney's office. And so she was basically saying, hey, any negotiations about my divorce has to come through me and not my dad. But the attorney was like, you want me to send you the bill too? She's like, oh, well, I don't want the bill. However, but I just really, really thought, I was sitting there like, how are you going to have a whole um, conversation with an attorney? First of all, you didn't even let me know that you had sought an attorney on my behalf and that you was behind the scenes trying to negotiate my divorce with my husband. How did you know like what I wanted? How did you know? How did you know? Girl, I was so mad. I said, okay, now her parents are a bit much. That's a bit much. Her parents are a bit much. Um, let's do another raffle, y'all. We're gonna do another raffle. As we getting to the end, we're gonna do another raffle. So we know Janice won the first. Janice, she won the first $10 raffle. And let's see who's going to win the second. And let's see who's going to win the second one. And this question is, what the name of and the answer, I'm writing my answer down now before y'all answer. Okay. Miss Lady said, yes, that was crazy. Rosemary says, when the attorney asked her if she wanted the bill, she clapped back by stating he could get paid from the settlement she gets from the divorce. Absolutely, because you don't get nothing up front. You got to win my case first. Okay, our next raffle question, because we're getting ready to talk about her, Aria. Let me put, the answer needs to be, let me write it. What was the name of, see how close y'all were paying attention. So remember, Aria was going to her mom's house. Remember, Aria's driving to her mom's house. Sis. Hey, sis. She said, just subscribe. Thank you so much for subscribing. I appreciate you for being here. So the first person to answer this question, I'm putting it in the chat under this. What was the name of Aria's old school? Remember, Aria was going to her mama's house. She was upset that she and Kingston had a horrible day at the counselor's office. So she was going to her mom's house. She passed her school. What was the name of Aria's old school? First person to put it in the chat. What was the name? I am watching the chat. Don't be putting no frowning face in there, Jenny. What? I'm looking. Ain't nobody gonna get this $10. Few more minutes. What was the name of Aria's old school? GSS Northwest. What was the name? I'm looking at it, y'all. I got it up in the book. Teresa said, I don't remember. You don't remember, Sid? You remember she was flying up in the neighborhood in her Range Rover. She turned off of a street and she passed her old school. Sharon says she don't remember either. Remember, she was talking about so many memories she had when she was driving through the neighborhood. Teresa says, I remember all that, but not the name of the school. Give y'all a few more minutes. What was the name of Aria's old school? This was in her neighborhood. All right. Ain't nobody get it. So we'll save this $10 for later. The answer was South 17th Street Elementary. Remember, South 17th Street Elementary. Remember, in the book it says she smiled a little as she passed her old school, South 17th Street Elementary, on her left, and West Side Park was on the right. Remember, she explained how um, 18 years of her life was spent at Central Ward Park, which was right across the street. So then none of y'all get it. None of y'all get it. Rosemary said, I don't remember that. Look at Janice. You is surprised. Teresa says too much other exciting stuff. I know. That's the thing. We be missing some little details. Missing some little details. So how did y'all feel about, so now we're at Aria. Aria's at her mama's house. Things didn't go the way that she wanted them to go. From the counselor's office. And remember, she had been repeatedly calling Kingston. Kingston wasn't answering. He wasn't responding to any of her calls. Remember, she called the job. Kingston didn't show up at work. She went to her mama's house because that's where she said she finds solace in going to her mom's house. And she went to her mom's house basically for, just to get some insight from her mom. And the thing I really loved about Aria's mom is that she told her the truth. I love that she could look at her daughter and say, talk to me when you're ready to talk to me, but I know something is going on, and Aria just didn't really want to tell her. But I love the fact that her mom also held her accountable and told her, basically, Aria, you got your own ish, and you up here, going back and forth with this man about whether or not he did something, and he hasn't proven that he's done something. And you are allowing your own demons basically to interfere in your relationship. So she was basically making her go home, right? She basically said, if you are going to work it out, get up and go home and wait on your husband. Because remember, Aria wasn't going home. She had been there all day. Her mom sent her home. She said, look, go home and wait on your husband. You will not stay here all night. Go home, wait on your husband. And that's when she decided to get up and go home. She said, and if it don't work, she said, remember who you are and remember where you came from. You went to school, you got your own job, your own money, and all of this kind of stuff. If you don't want to stay in a situation, don't stay in the situation, but don't remain in limbo, basically. So I really appreciated her mom for holding her accountable. I appreciated her mom for just not letting her basically run away from the situation, because she said, Aria, you do that all the time. What I was not expecting when she got home, were y'all expecting when she pulled up? You remember Kingston was home when she got there. She walked through the door. She did not know who was there. Did y'all think he had another lady in the house? Because at this point, she didn't know that it was his parents. So when she went in there, you remember immediately when she was opening the door, she said, it better not be another B up in here. But you see how her mind always went to the negative stuff. And, and common sense would be like, okay, Aria, Jessa just sent this text message saying that, she was cheating with one of y'all's husbands. You have been accusing this man. Y'all been to counseling. Do you really think this man was brave enough or even doggish enough to really just have another woman at the house? And I was sitting there like, come on, Aria. When I say Aria was really working my nerves in this book, Aria was working my nerves in this book. She was really working my nerves. Teresa says, I love how Aria's mom handled it too. She did tell her to go home. She told her to get out. Yes, Janice, get out. Teresa says, I didn't think he had another lady, but I didn't think it would be his parents either. Rosemary says, no, I didn't think he had another woman there. I just was not sure who was there. Aria even accused him of a coworker. Absolutely. I don't think he had anybody there, but I definitely was not expecting it to be his parents either, because here it is, I walk in the door not knowing who's there, but I also know that there's friction between the both of us. We haven't spoken, we on bad terms, and then I walk in and here sit your parents. Um, and I didn't like the fact that I didn't like his mom. And I say that because for me, his mom overstepped boundaries. And that this is where it went into, giving us a little bit more insight about Kingston. This is what Arya told us, that basically Kingston was a mama's boy. And whatever he did to please his mom. So he basically wouldn't shut his mama up, and he wouldn't set any boundaries when it came to the mom. And that was one of the issues. And I feel like Arya was finally glad that she found something she could dislike about Kingston, because in her eyes he was just too perfect for her. But this is where she found that, okay, you need to put your mom in her place and set some boundaries with your mom. So the fact that her mom immediately started the whole grandbaby talk, when y'all gonna give me some grandbabies and all of this kind of stuff, not even realizing that that is the reason why they are like, in the situation that they're in. And behind the scenes they're going through stuff because Arya at this point think that she cannot conceive. And the fact that the mom just keep drilling in, like, well, when y'all gonna give me some grandbabies? And I get, that the mom wants her son to have kids, but that's one pet peeve that I have in real life about people. Stop asking people when they're gonna have kids. Stop trying to force kids to give you grandbabies because you feel like you're getting older. And the fact that people say that, not even really taking into consideration that um people may be struggling and going through, health issues as to why they can't conceive kids. And the fact that, you just keep drilling that question, and when y'all gonna have kids, when y'all gonna have kids, don't do that. To me, that's real disrespectful. That's very disrespectful. So I didn't like that about his mom. And the other thing that I didn't like, so when Arya told Kingston to get up and come upstairs with her so that they could go and get the room ready, because at this point they thought his parents was going to stay. I didn't like the fact that the mama busted in the room. Did y'all remember when she just busted in the room when Arya and Kingston was, going back and forth having their little spout in the bedroom? And the mama actually came upstairs and came into the room and was like, well, what's going on with y'all? I'm sitting there like, okay, first of all, this is these married people's home, whether he's your son or not. That's he and his wife's home. And the fact that you see that they're in a room with the door shut and you open the door and bust in the room, I didn't like that. That's disrespectful, and that is overstepping your boundaries. And the fact that Kingston told Arya, I don't think I'll be able to get past this because you lied and all of this kind of stuff. So she ended up going. He said that he was going home with his parents, that they weren't going to stay there. And he ended up going home with his parents. I ain't like that either. I ain't like that. I really didn't like that. Teresa says, I didn't think he had, I read that one. Yes, Teresa. Rosemary says, yes, Kingston was a mama's boy. However, the mother was inappropriate. She had been asking Ariel about grandchildren for quite a while. Janice says, talking about they gonna leave so they can have a private conversation. Right. We was having a private conversation before you popped in and opened the door. So we was having a private conversation already. So I didn't like that. I didn't like that point. So then we move past that. He goes to, stay with his mom. He goes to stay with his mom, and then Arya was still trying to call. So Arya basically, I like the part where Arya went to do a private session with the counselor, and he actually, Dr. Matheson, actually assigned her to a different one, because he was basically telling her, you have a lot of unresolved personal issues that you need to deal with outside of what you and Kingston are dealing with within your marriage, because he was able to find like some internal stuff she was dealing with. So he sent her to a different counselor. So I loved how that counselor started to get her to see a lot of the stuff that she went through when she was 15. She was out there with her cousin, and they was doing all of the with all of the tricks they were turning and all of the abortion she had. But she asked Arya, which was something I was again glad that Niobia tapped into, basically asking her, like, do you realize that you was only 15, you was only a kid, and that these people actually violated you? She was like, I get that you're making excuses for, the things you did. She said, you did some things wrong, but you were a kid. These men were older men, and they actually was okay, being intimate with a kid. So there were things that you were doing, but you were a kid. So you didn't really understand what you were actually doing. So I appreciate, again, Niobia, bringing the whole counseling situation in, and she was actually able to talk about and deep dive into, basically get Arya to see, like, you went through some stuff. And until you can deal with this stuff that you went through, there's no way you can work on your marriage. So you got to forgive yourself so that you'll be able to forgive Kingston, and y'all work on y'all marriage and all of this kind of stuff. And I like when she thought that her mom didn't know about the abortions and stuff. You remember she started reminiscing about her and her cousin on the day that she came back from just having one of the abortions that she had, and she didn't feel good, but she didn't open up and tell her mom. She had no idea that her mom already knew. So I'm glad that her mother had the conversation with her right before her mom told her to go home to try to work on her marriage. She told her, like, you're my kid. I already knew, but the thing that hurt me most is that you didn't trust me enough as your mom to actually come and talk to me about this stuff, or felt comfortable enough to, tell me about these things so that I can help walk you through it. So it seems like a lot of the issues that a lot of the couples in this book was having was the lack of communication. And we say that all the time. They lacked effective communication. They didn't talk to each other. So a lot of stuff went unaddressed because they did not open up and have communication with each other. And so I'm glad we were able to, at least get from a therapist's point of view, see where her mom was coming from. And basically, she said that, all you had to do was open up and have a conversation with me and talk to me about it, the same way Kingston said. And after that, that's when, you remember, Arya was leaving there and she had the accident. That's when Arya um, ended up having an accident when she was on her way home, and she had tried to call Kingston again. He didn't answer. She got into the accident. That's when she was rushed to the hospital. She was in the hospital, and she was trying to come through, and she was hearing voices, and she heard Renee and Jamie was there, and she also heard her mom's voice, but she also heard the nurse say, thank goodness that she didn't miscarry the baby. Do y'all remember that? So Aria is now pregnant. She's actually pregnant. And before we got to this, with her counseling, she went back to, writing on her magazine column, and she chose to start deep diving into adoption and infertility and all of that kind of stuff. And that's what she started to write about. So I think that this is going to become like a passion of hers, to kind of tap into that and to be able to engage more in that area, to be able to talk about it. Because remember, her therapist asked her, like, have you thought about sharing your story with other people? And Arya was against it, and she was like, no, I'm not going to talk to anybody about that. So hopefully we end up seeing somewhere within the series that Arya opens up and start actually using her testimony to, talk to other people about what she went through and the situation she had to deal with. So I really, really do like that for her. So she ended up being pregnant. So I'm glad that she was able to finally be pregnant. Remember, she said she had her eyes closed. She was trying to open her eyes, but she couldn't. But she did remember feeling tears falling on her face, and she heard that Kingston whispered in her ear and said that they were pregnant. So it seems like Arya and Kingston may end up working their situation out, because now she's pregnant. So we will see how that goes in the next book. Renee ended up getting out, so we're gonna see what happens with her and Renee. I can't stand Virginia. Do y'all like Jamie's mama? I don't like Jamie's mama. I do not like Jamie's mama. So it ended up, so as we got to the end of the book, so you remember, so apparently they worked out a deal with Eric and Jamie in regards to their divorce. So Jamie is moving back into Richmond Hills. So remember, um, she was moving out of her townhouse. She basically, you remember, she used up Pleasure one last time, and she basically was trying to punk Pleasure because he chose the older woman over her that night at the club because she didn't have the money to pay and he didn't want to bill her later. So she decided to um she was like, I'm gonna get him one more time and one last time. And she basically played Pleasure at that moment. So then after that, she ended up moving back to Richmond Hills. I was surprised when she was like, I'm on my way back to Richmond Hills, and she was pulling up to the gate and Lucky let her in. So she actually talked about everything that she had won in the settlement. So she ended up getting the house. She ended up getting some of his 401k. She ended up getting part time at one of the properties at Martha's Vineyard, and something else that she ended up getting. So I was glad to see that she actually was able to get her stuff. And then remember, as she was packing up to leave for the last time, she saw Lucas out in the yard. Girl, she done scarred Lucas. Lucas couldn't look at her. Lucas said, girl, what's going on? Lucas could not look at Jamie anymore. Lucas felt violated. That's exactly how Lucas felt. Lucas would be outside in the yard. He wouldn't be paying attention to Jamie. And so Jamie was waving at him, and she was trying, she was trying to speak to him, and she was trying to make sure she told him that she wasn't mad at him or felt no kind of way about him or whatever the case may be. But Lucas was like, girl, bye. Good and bye. She scarred Lucas. She just did Lucas so wrong. She had him out there so bad. She had him out there so bad. Um, Teresa says she was a good mom because I probably would have confronted her little arse. I know that's right. Janice says talking about they're gonna leave so they can have. Okay, I read that one. Gia says, I wonder if Kingston will wipe the slate clean and start over. Good question. We're gonna see in book 3. Teresa says Kingston will definitely wipe the slate clean. Gia, he really loves her. He really does. And I think that Kingston was more upset that she was basically playing with his manhood, like acting like I can't be a good husband, and basically was asking her like, what do you want? You want me to be choking you and jerking you up and all this kind of stuff? Why can't I be a good man, a good husband, a good provider? Or why, and most importantly, why do you feel like you're less deserving of that? Yes, Janice, Mama Pine. What wait, was it Mama Pine? I think her name was what was her name? I was just looking at my notes. Remember the waiter said he to her, the old chick out. Yes, and that's what made her mad when the waiter at the strip club told her that the old lady outbid her, because you remember Jamie didn't have the money to put in them trousers, child. Pleasure say at the end of the day, this is work for me. Run me my money. And I just didn't like the way that Jamie was basically trying to make their relationship something that it wasn't. You know how you got the man. It was just a business transaction for him. But Jamie has started to get jealous. She has started to feel a certain kind of way. But to Pleasure, it's just like it was just money. But stay tuned. Stay tuned, though. They still got some more in their story. Yes, Teresa, and Jessica can have the rest. Absolutely. Yes, Rosemary says Eric was psycho the way he destroyed their house. Girl, I was sitting in there. So Jamie walked in. She said, oh, I'm back to my neighborhood. I'm back to my pristine home. Because you remember she was saying in the last book how much time and attention she put into the decor in the home and making sure she was had won like ads in the magazine for her decor in the home and all of that kind of stuff. And the fact that this Negro done wrote in feces on the wall, calling her all kind of horrors and I was like, this Negro has lost his entire mind. And she said, that's why I'm glad I didn't call the ladies to come over with me as I was pulling up, because had we opened the door and this is what we saw, it was a whole mess. It was a whole mess. So we're going to see what happens with that. And the finale of it all, y'all. What did y'all think about Jessa and Eric's? The ending of the book. The ending, did it surprise y'all? Because I was clenching my pearls. I was sitting here because remember, it was Eric and Jessa. Eric had gotten in. At first, I thought Jessa was dreaming. I thought that this was a dream. And you remember Eric was choking Jessa because he felt like he had lost. So he blamed Jessa for Jamie being able to get half of his stuff, to get his house and all of this kind of stuff. So he was upset at Jessa. And actually, it pretty much was Jessa's fault, because that text message is what gave Jamie the strength to finally walk away from Eric. But so Eric was upset. For one, Jessa was playing because she wanted to leave Eric alone because she didn't like this new demented side that she was seeing of him. She said that wasn't the same man that she fell in love with, that she was having the affair with, so she was seeing a different side. So the fact that he had started to stalk her as well, now she didn't want him. Now she's trying to send him back home to his wife. But Eric was like, we still got some unfinished business. So because Eric felt like he lost, and he felt like regardless of all of the stuff that he did to cause the demise of his marriage, he blamed Jessa. So he was choking Jessa. And we remember when it ended, so it ended with Jessa saying that he had his hands around her neck and he was choking the life out of her. Everything was going dark and she couldn't breathe, and she was blanked out and passed out on the floor, and the last thing she heard was gunshot. And that's when it ended. And so the question is, y'all, did Jessa actually pass away? When the gunshot went off, was it actually Eric that was unaliving himself, or did Eric shoot Jessa? What y'all think is going to be? Was it Eric or was it Jessa? Do you think they'll make an appearance? Do you think it was a dream? What y'all think? What did y'all think about that ending? Gia says, that's why I'm ready for the next book. Did something really happen to Eric? Did something happen to Eric? Did Eric unalive Jessa? What y'all think? What y'all think? Are we going to see Eric or Jessa in the next book? Are we going to see? Teresa says, I think it was a dream. Okay. Teresa says she think it was a dream. Gia says, I think it was Jamie who shot Eric. So you think Jamie came in and caught them tussling, and she came in and shot him. So okay, Gia thinks that it was Eric. I mean, it was Jamie. Hmm. Interesting, Gia. We will see, y'all. We will see. So, did y'all like the book? Did y'all like book 2? Janice says, I'm excited to find out. Me too, sis. Me too. I am excited to find out. So, did y'all enjoy today's book discussion? The Mistress No More. Did y'all like it? I think it as we were saying earlier, I think it gave us a little bit more insight on everybody. Um it gave us a little bit more details about the relationships and all of the things they were dealing with. So I'm interested in finding out what happens with Arya and Kingston. Can they bounce back now that a baby is coming into the picture? Will Arya finally open up and tell Kingston everything about her past? You know, how will they be able to maneuver and move forward with this new revelation? We know Renee came out of the rehab facility. She got all of the letters from, you know, the kids, like how she's going to move forward with addressing, you know, the newfound revelation from her son. Um, how will she, you know, pick that situation up? Will Renee and Jackson survive this outside baby? And if you remember, now, my next question was, because you remember when Jackson couldn't show up to pick up Renee from rehab because Inga's tail was in premature labor. Do y'all think she had the baby? Do y'all think the baby gonna make it? So that's another thing that I'm looking forward to finding out more about that story. Did Inga give birth? Did she, you know, is the baby okay? Is there a baby? How will Renee and Jackson be able to move past, you know, their situation, dealing with the baby and also dealing with the kids and all of that kind of stuff? Um, then there is Jamie. How will Jamie's life look going forward? We know that she's getting ready to move back into Richmond Hills. We know that she's trying to build her um, interior design company up and all of that stuff. She said that she's back out in the community. She's back going to church and all of that kind of stuff. What does book 3 look like for Pleasure and Jamie? Because you know how she left Pleasure. She basically used him up that one last time. So what happens? Will Pleasure call Jamie? You know, will Pleasure miss that money he was getting from Jamie, or will he want to just really have, you know, build something with Jamie now that she decided to walk away from him? So I'm interested in seeing how all of those dynamics play out. But most importantly, I'm interested in finding out if Jezebel made it and or if Eric made it. So I'm so excited to find out that our next book is book 3 in the Mistress series, and it is Mistress Inc. Teresa put it in the chat. Mistress Inc. by Niobia Bryant. Rosemary says, I enjoyed book 2. Can't wait to read 3. Ms. Lady says, yes, these books are good, sis. Yes, they are. And yes, Sharon, it is getting deep. It is getting deep for sure. Gia says she came in after finding her house tour. Absolutely. So maybe she went next door and saw that Eric was at Jessa's house and saw that they were tussling. So maybe it was. Did she shoot up in the air? Did she shoot Eric, or did she shoot Jessa? Um, hmm. So the mystery lives on. Okay, so here's our synopsis for book 3. Book 3, our December book 3, Message Inc. by Mistress Inc. Teresa. Mistress Inc. by Niobia Bryant. I was like, message. It's Mistress Inc. by Niobia Bryant, right? So here we go. When Jezebel revealed she was having an affair with one of her best friend's husbands, no one would have predicted she'd soon be playing the part of the reformed mistress, least of all Jessa. But her experience and ensuing remorse has landed her on an all national talk shows and scored her a major book deal. Now that she's pregnant with her ex-lover's baby, Jessa's determined to cash in on all the attention. The trouble is, she's not feeling much genuine regret. Shunned by her former friends, Jessa is still being propositioned by married men and decides to start a business to help wives catch their cheating husbands. But when more secrets about her past are exposed, it's going to be tough for her to stay on the straight and narrow, even if it spells disaster for her future. Full of scandal, lies, secrets, sex, and redemption. Listen. So that answers our question. It was not Jessa. It was not Jessa. Jessa is back, y'all. Jessa is coming back, and Jessa is getting ready to cash in on her being this whole mistress thing. She is pregnant with Eric's baby. She is pregnant with Eric's baby. She don't regret anything that happened. She's getting book deals. She's on national talk shows and all of this kind of stuff. And she getting ready to start a business, y'all. She, of all people, is getting ready to start a business to help wives catch their cheating husbands. Girl, 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 girl. Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready? Oh, Jesus. Are y'all ready for that, girl? Jessa is pregnant. Jessa is pregnant. Oh, my goodness. All right, y'all. So that's book three. That is book three. Mistress Inc. by Niobia Bryant. Go on and get it downloaded. Get started reading. If you're ready to get started reading, I can't wait to start on it because I'm really interested in seeing, for one, what's going on with Eric. Is Eric? It still didn't say, although we know that Jessa is still alive, but is Eric actually still alive? Will Eric come back? What happened? Did they shoot and thought they unalived him or whatever the case may be? So I'm interested in seeing how this play out. I'm interested in seeing. So that is our book three, y'all. I appreciate y'all. I had fun. I hope y'all had fun. I had an amazing time. Teresa says, "Are we going for December 20th, sis?" That's on a Saturday, and I will let you know the time, Teresa, because that's actually I have a birthday dinner party for myself for my birthday on that same day. It's a brunch though, and it starts at 12. So I'll have to the times may be different. Either I'm going to may end up doing it later that Saturday or that Friday night. So I don't know yet, but it's definitely on the third weekend for sure. But I'll let you know regarding to the time. Actually, so it may have to be later than the 1 o'clock time frame on that Saturday because that's my birthday dinner party that I have. So I will definitely let everybody know when I confirm before that day. But it's definitely on our same third weekend. I am not venturing away from our third weekend. So it may have to just be a little later in the day for whomever can make it. If you can make it, but it'll be a little later in the day, but it just won't be our normal 1 o'clock time frame that day, only because I have my birthday brunch that day. But I'll definitely keep you posted. But what an amazing time we had at the pink table today, y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed it as much as I did. Excellent, excellent, excellent book discussion. Thanks to everybody that was tuning in and actually engaging in the conversation. I love seeing that y'all read the book. Everybody was on it. I appreciate it. And as we leave today's discussion, I hope you carry a renewed sense of community along with you. Thank you all again for bringing your voices, your laughter, and your hearts into this space. This isn't just about reading. It's about us having fun and growing through every page we turn. Because, girl, listen, every discussion reminds us that we're not just reading books. We're building bonds. We're growing together, and we are truly enjoying reading between the lines. Until next time, ladies, the same table, same love, new book. Cheers to our sisterhood and cheers to the stories. And remember, at the Pink Table Book Club is more than just about books. It's about sisterhood and community. Every page we turn sparks new conversations, new connections, and new inspiration. Y'all have a good rest of your Saturday evening, and I will chat with you soon. Have a good day.